Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text number 17. Bhayam pramattasya vaneshvapi syat yatah sa aste sahashat sapatnaha jitendriyasyatmarater budhasya grihashramahas kim nu karotyavadyam. Even if he goes from forest to forest, one who is not self-controlled must always fear material bondage, because he is living with 6 co-wives, the mind and knowledge-acquiring senses. Even household life, however, cannot harm a self-satisfied, learned man who has conquered his senses. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Narottam Das Thakura has sung Grihe vanetha thake aha gauranga bole dhake. Whether one is situated in the forest or at home, if he is engaged in the devotional service of Lord Chaitanya, he is a liberated person. Here this is also repeated. For one who has not controlled his senses, going to the forest to become a so-called yogi is meaningless, because his uncontrolled mind and senses are going with him. He cannot achieve anything even by giving up household life and staying in the forest. Formerly, many mercantile men from the upcountry of India used to go to Bengal, and thus there is a familiar saying, if you go to Bengal, your fortune will go with you. Our first concern, therefore, should be to control the senses. And since the senses cannot be controlled unless one is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, our most important duty is to engage the senses in devotional service. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktiruchyate. Bhakti means engagement of the purified senses in the service of the Lord. Herein Lord Brahma indicates that instead of going to the forest with uncontrolled senses, it is better and more secure to engage the senses in the service of the Lord. Even household life can do no harm to a self-controlled person acting in this way. It cannot force him into material bondage. Srila Rupa Goswami has further enunciated this position. Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikhilashvapyavasthasu jivan muktaha sa uchyate. Regardless of one's circumstances, if one fully engages his activities, mind and words in the devotional service of the Lord, he should be understood to be a liberated person. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur was a responsible officer and a householder, yet his service to the cause of expanding the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is unique. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakura says, Durdantendriya kala sarpa patali protkatha damshrayate. The sense organs are certainly our greatest enemies, and they are therefore compared to venomous serpents. However, if a venomous serpent is bereft of its poison fangs, it is no longer fearful. Similarly, if the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, there is no need to fear their activities. The devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement move within this material world, but because their senses are fully engaged in the service of the Lord, they are always aloof from the material world. They are always living in a transcendental position. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So we are reading about the activities of Maharaj Priyavrata, in this chapter. He is in the forest under the direction of Narada Muni, practicing spiritual life, all alone, away from the city, away from people, society, and he is very happy. And in that state, Swayambhuva Manu has reached there, his father. Not just Swayambhuva Manu, Lord Brahma has reached there, and Lord Brahma is now speaking. And today's words are Lord Brahma's words. Bhayam pramatthasya vaneshvapi syat. Lord Brahma's mission is to convince Priyavrata to come to the palace, to come to the kingdom and become a king and rule the kingdom. So he's giving different perspectives. And in today's verse, he is saying, Bhayam pramatthasya vaneshvapi syat. Pramatthasya, somebody who is bewildered. If somebody is bewildered and he goes to vaneshu, vaneshapi syat, yathassa aste, and if he goes to the forest, he will still be living there. With whom? Maybe he is alone, but he is pramatthasya, and so he will be living there with sahashat sapatnaha. He will be living with 6 co-wives. Shat sapatnaha, sapatni, shat sapatni, sahashat sapatnaha. He will be living with 6 co-wives. On the other hand, jita indriyasya, one who has controlled his senses, atmaratehe, atmarati means one who delights in the self, atmarati, buddhasya, enlightened person, gruha ashrama kim na karoti avadyam. What harm? Avadya is harm. What harm does gruha ashrama kim karoti, kim nu karoti avadyam, gruha ashramaha? What harm does gruha ashrama create, cause for him? Even if he goes from forest to forest, vaneshvapi syat, one who is not self-controlled, pramatthasya, must always fear bhayam, must always fear material bondage, because he is living saaste with 6 co-wives, the mind and knowledge acquiring senses. Saha saaste sahashat sapatnaha. Even householder life, gruha ashramaha, however, cannot harm, na avadyam. A self-satisfied jita indriyasya, learned man, buddhasya, who has conquered, cannot harm a self-satisfied atmaratihi, learned man, buddhasya, who has conquered his senses, jita indriyasya. This is the interesting verse. Lord Brahma is explaining. This is one of the important principles in the Bhagavad Tattva, Bhagavata philosophy, that in the material world, in any situation, one can come to a spiritually advanced position. So Brahma is making a contrast. On the one hand, there is a pramattasya, a bewildered man. He does not know. On the other hand, there is a jita indriyasya atmarater buddhasya. So there is a jita indriya, one who has controlled his senses, atmarati, who delights in the self, who is self-satisfied, and buddha, enlightened person. So this pramattasya, a man who is bewildered, even if he goes to forest, he's not going to be alone there. His 6 co-wives will be troubling him. And who are the 6 co-wives? The mind and the 5 senses. And the mind and the 5 senses, when they are not controlled, they'll continue to trouble this. And that's why he's pramattasya. On the other hand, jita indriyasya atmaratihi buddhasya is enlightened, self-controlled, and all his senses are controlled. Such a person, griha ashrama kim na karotyavadyam. How does it really affect him? So you can see how Brahma is inducing Priyavrata. He's telling him, you are actually jita indriyasya, you are jita indriya, you are atmaratihi, you are buddha. So even if you come to the griha ashrama, kim avadyam karoti, what harm is there? He's slowly pushing him. Just like a devotee pushes a devotee to join the temple, slowly builds up the argument. Now you should, what is there? You should shave up. So like that. Here it's a different situation. He's already shaved up. He's telling, come back to the ashram and wear a crown. It doesn't matter. So, very interesting. And Narottam Das Thakur has sung Griheva Vanethe Thako Hara Guranga Bole Dhako. See, we can see how these principles of the Srimad-Bhagavatam very nicely captured by our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. And they have made that as the very, very strong foundation of spiritual life. And Prabhupada is quoting, there is a Bengali proverb. It looks like those days people would go to Bengal for good fortune. A lot of people would migrate. That's how we see a lot of Marwadis in Bengal, Calcutta and other places. So I think it was a trend those days that you should go to Bengal, because Calcutta was the capital of Britishers, not Delhi. Later on, towards the end, they started moving towards Delhi, but for a long time it was Calcutta. And so looks like there was lost a lot of prosperity, and people would come. And so they developed, there's a Bengali proverb also, Prabhupada quotes that also sometimes, that if you go to Bengal, not that you will become rich, because when you go to Bengal, you also carry your fortune, you carry your, what is there for you, it will still come with you. So in the same way, you may go to the forest, but your uncontrolled senses and uncontrolled mind will come with you, and they will be haunting you. They'll be your wives. You are not alone. And so that's the kind of an understanding that Lord Brahma is bringing about. So, Jita indriyasya atmaratihi buddhasya. This is the important point. Krishna also talks about atmarati in the 3rd chapter of the Gita. There is a verse. Yastva atmaratir eva syat atmatripthascha manavaha atman eva santushthas tasya karyam na vidyate. One who is, however, taking pleasure in the self, atmarati. One who is taking pleasure in the self, who is illumined in the self. Atmatripthas chamanavaha atmanyeva cha santushtaha. One who rejoices in and is satisfied with the self, only fully satiated. For him there is no duty. Tasya karyam na vidyate. So, the important principle is that how can we learn to take pleasure in the self? So sometimes spiritual life is misunderstood. Spiritual life means, a lot of suffering and troublesome and all of those kind of things. No, it is atmarati. It is finding another quality of pleasure, finding another venue of pleasure other than just sensual activities. So, spiritual life is to explore, is to discover and to experience Atmarathi, Atmatushtaha. How one can become very satisfied. So, it is not without pleasure. It is with pleasure in the self. In fact, the dominant understanding in the material world today, especially in Kali Yuga, what is the foundation of modern society? The foundation of modern society is how to maximize and amplify sensual pleasures for everyone. This actually is the basis. So, there is only one understanding of pleasure, one understanding of happiness, and that is sensual pleasure. Small number of people look for other than sensual pleasure. There is some kind of a cultural pleasure and literature and music and such things. But by and large, the basis is, I may spice it up with some cultural pleasures, but the basic thing is sensual pleasures, and I must be able to amplify that. I must be able to enlarge that for myself and for my family members, and then not just for my family, but my community, my society. And that is highly lauded. The value system is like that, you see. When somebody is contributing to increasing the sensual pleasure of somebody, he is highly respected. Oh, this man, he has created so many jobs. He has created such a big industry. So many employment he has created. So many people he is feeding, he is taking care. So he is a very good man, very successful man in the society. This is the understanding. Whether it's economic development, it is to bring about sensual pleasure. Whether it's technology, all of that, how technology can bring sensual pleasure. How if it is economic policies, business, how that can bring pleasure, maximum pleasure to the people, sensual pleasure. Pleasure is not an issue. Sensual pleasure. So politics, political systems, political philosophy aimed at maximizing pleasure, sensual pleasure. So today, the material world, Kali Yuga society, this has become the basis. Now, the Srimad-Bhagavatam and the teachings of the Acharyas, teachings of Srila Prabhupada, propose an alternative. Actually, it is important to look for an alternative. Today the world is actually very confused. What's going wrong? Right? What has happened? So they had good governments, good policies, good democratic policies, and technology and wealth and all of that. Suddenly people are shaken today. Right? So now people, hopefully people will become introspective. It won't just be a smashan vairagya. After everything becomes okay, again they'll go back to sense gratification. Mostly that's what will happen. But at least let's hope some people will get jolted and take to spiritual understanding. So, good number of people are beginning to realize, especially the younger generation, they realize from another angle. We may come from a spiritual angle, they come from another angle, which is also good, that's favorable, we can take advantage of that. They see that there is a lot of abuse of the planet because of this approach of maximizing sensual pleasure for maximum people. This approach has actually led to an abuse of the planet. They see that there is so much plastic waste, there is so much climate change, there is so many things happening, and air is polluted, water is polluted, earth is polluted. What is left for us? then everything we have polluted, we are destroying. So from that perspective, people are beginning to see. So now our acharyas are presenting, can we build the society? Can we build a civilized society on an alternate basis? And the Bhagavatam provides that yes, there is an alternate basis. What is that alternate basis? The alternate basis is Jignasu Tattva, Atma Tattva, the basis of understanding the absolute truth, understanding the truth about oneself, understanding about the source of all this, understanding that the source of all this is a transcendental person, and serving and satisfying that transcendental person can be an alternate basis for building a society. So, actually we can develop a political theory, we can have economic development, we can have industries, we can have technology, all of these things on an alternate basis. And when we have that, it is not that this alternate basis does not mean good quality of life. There can be good prosperity, there can be good opulence, there can be good education, there can be good family life, there can be good entertainment, all of these things, but on an alternate platform of understanding the self, understanding the origin of this universe, understanding God who is as a transcendental person, and satisfying Him and pleasing Him. There are many examples in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. There is the talk that once Prithu Maharaj addresses the citizens. He has become a king, and now he goes and addresses the society. And in his address, he says, I want to build my society, build this kingdom, because his predecessor was King Vena, who was a bad king, and Brahmanas got rid of him, killed him, and then Prithu was made the king. So now he is addressing that the whole society was very, very dissatisfied the way his predecessor king was ruling. So now he is saying that I'm going to build a society on an alternate basis, and he says the basis for my society will be Adhokshaja Dhiya. Adhokshaja Dhiya means Krishna consciousness. There is a Lord who is transcendental, and how the infusion of Krishna, of this consciousness of the transcendental Lord, will be the basis of building my kingdom. So it's an alternate proposition, and that will bring about prosperity. One can have good life and can have good families, good homes, good roads, good infrastructure. You can have all of these things with another intent, how to satisfy the Lord. It's a very interesting perspective that Srimad-Bhagavatam provides. So Atma Rathi is not, we are interested in Rati. Rati means pleasure, delight, happiness, attraction. That is not denied, but you get attracted, you get satisfied, you get pleasure of another quality, from another source, from another kind, instead of just receiving it from senses. Because sense pleasure, the vocabulary of sense pleasure is the vocabulary of the animals. Animals have no ability to discover any other kind of pleasure than sense pleasure. If human society is not educated and kept to discover and experience only animal sense pleasure, then we have kept the entire human society on an animal level. That's why Srila Prabhupada's famous quote, you have created a deluxe edition of the animal life. Animals run on 4 legs. I see you people, Americans, running on 4 wheels for the same thing. So this is the whole proposition. Now, towards the end of this purport, Prabhupada quoted Narottam Das Thakur, he quoted the Bengali proverb, and then he said, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam, senses should be engaged. And then he's brought another important point, how that if one has controlled his senses, one is leading a spiritual life, it does not matter in what kind of a situation one is in. And Prabhupada has quoted this verse, Iha yasya harer dhasye karmana manasa gira nikhila shvapya avasthasu. Nikhila means in any situation, any kind of a nikhila shvapya avasthasu. Avastha, whatever situation, nikhila, in all kinds of situation. Whether one is poor, whether one is rich, one is educated, not educated, one is healthy, one is unhealthy, when one is young, when one is old, in all circumstances, jivan muktaha sa uchyate, one can be in a liberated stage. And when does that happen? Harer dhasya. And how that Hari Dasya, Harer Dasya happens? Karmana Manasa Gira. By one's activities, by one's mind, by one's words. If one is serving Hari, in whatever situation one is in, he can be in a liberated situation. And then Prabhupada comes to the point in our Krishna consciousness movement, which is now is coming to our society, our activities, our day-to-day life, what we should do. The devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement move within this material world. You see, we go mix with karmis, we go meet people, we do all those things. We move around in this material world. But because their senses are fully engaged in the service of the Lord, they are always aloof from the material world. So this is what is expected of us in Krishna consciousness. We may be moving within the material world, but we are expected to be aloof from the material world. They are always living in a transcendental position. This is the expectation of Srila Prabhupada. This is the instruction of Srila Prabhupada. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Korya Aikya. We should take his instruction to our heart. So they are always living in a transcendental position. We should always be living, always, not once in a way during morning program and so for a few hours in the day always living in a transcendental position. This is what is expected of us. Now, what is this transcendental position and how does one experience that? Very nicely, Krishna explains this. We will read a few verses. Na prahrishyet priyam prapya nodvijet prapya cha priyam sthira buddhir asammudho brahmavid brahmani stitaha. Brahmani stitaha means always situated in transcendental position. Always living in a transcendental position. That is Brahmani stitaha. What are the symptoms of a person who is in Brahmani stitaha? Very nicely, Prabhupada is explaining. Na prahrishyet priyam prapya. Hrishyet, hrishyati means, comes from the word heart, hrit, very happy. Na prahrishyet means very, very happy. Na prahrishyet priyam prapya. When something very pleasant is obtained in the material world, he does not rejoice in it. Nodvijet prapya cha priyam. In this material world, you cannot be sure at all. Always I will get priya. You will also get apriyam. You will also get uncomfortable, unpleasant situation in life. It is not in our control. The material world unfolds, both for the society and for an individual, according to our past karmas. We have no control over that. Sometimes priyam prapya, sometimes apriyam prapya. So, for one who is brahmani stitaha, he is na udvijet, he is not disturbed. When apriyam prapya chapriyam, apriyam prapya na udvijet, he is not disturbed. Such a wonderful state of consciousness, isn't it? On the other hand, if you have built your life only on the basis of sense gratification, if our life, we have been trained and educated only in sensual pleasures, and then when the material world gives us apriyam situation, like it is happening on a global scale in the world today, udvijet, everyone is disturbed. But one who is brahmani stitaha, na prihrishyet priyam prapya, nodvijet prapya chapriyam. And this kind of a situation, sthira buddhir. It is not that occasionally he feels like that. No. That may be in a sadhaka stage. One is expected, sthira buddhir, asammudho. He is not bewildered. Same word here, Brahma has used, pramattasya. One who is bewildered. So here, asammudho. He is not bewildered anymore. So, na prihrishyet priyam prapya, nodvijet prapya chapriyam, sthira buddhirra sammudo, brahmavit. He knows this absolute truth. Brahmavit, he is the knower of the truth. Brahmani stitaha. He is situated in that. So, Prabhupada wants us to be always situated in that Brahmani stitaha. Brahmani stitaha, another word is to be transcendental position. Transcendental means what? Not in the material world, aloof from the material world, because material world means under the influence of the three modes of material nature, and the three modes of material nature impelling us to act in different ways. That's what the material world is. And we are supposed to be aloof, we are supposed to be transcendental, we are supposed to be above these things. So how does one transcend? How will one come to transcendental position? Not just come. Prabhupada's instruction is always living in the transcendental position. We must come and live in the transcendental position. How does that happen? What is the way to do it? Now, there is a very interesting verse about this. This is in the 7th canto, Instructions to a Civilized Human Society. This is a new civilized society, another kind of a society. Rajas tamascha satvena Sattvam chopa shamena cha etat sarvam. So this verse is talking about how one can transcend rajas, tamas, cha sattvena. How one can transcend rajas and tamoguna. Rajoguna and tamoguna you can transcend by sattvaguna. Sattvena rajas tamascha. Because sattva is a higher guna. And by that guna's influence, you can overcome its more powerful enlightenment, knowledge, understanding, all of that. That is sattva. Rajas tamascha sattvena. Sattvena one can overcome. Sattvam cha upashamena cha. Even sattvaguna you can overcome by giving up attachment. Etat sarvam. How can do all of these things? Very interesting proposition from the Srimad-Bhagavatam. This is what we must be doing. How to transcend? Because Prabhupada has said we have to be always living in a transcendental position. How can I come to transcendental position? How can I remain in transcendental position? Srimad-Bhagavatam's recommendation is Rajas tamascha satvena sattvam chopashamena cha etat sarvam gurau bhaktya purushohya anjasa jaye. By devotion to the spiritual master. Gurau bhaktya purushohya anjasa jayet. Anjasa, very quickly. Translation: one must conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by developing the mode of goodness. And then one must become detached from the mode of goodness by promoting oneself to the platform of Shuddha Sattva, transcendental position. You can come promote yourself to the position of Shuddha Sattva. All this can be automatically done. Anjasa jayet. Very quickly, very automatically. Anjasa, all this can be automatically done if one engages in the service of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. In this way, one can conquer the influence of the modes of nature. This is the recommendation of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. I'll read the purport. Just by treating the root cause of an ailment, one can conquer all bodily pains and sufferings. Similarly, if one is devoted and faithful to the spiritual master, he can conquer the influence of Sattva-guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna very easily. Yogis and Jnanis practice in many ways to conquer the senses, but the Bhakta immediately attains the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mercy of the spiritual master. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadaha. So, this is the whole point here. If we have to come to a transcendental position, if we have to remain in the transcendental position, to come to the transcendence, Jnanis and yogis and all of them, they struggle a lot. Our position is, our approach is to serve the spiritual master and please the spiritual master. When the spiritual master is pleased, Krishna will bless us. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadaha. We should serve the spiritual master with faith and devotion, and by that, spiritual master is pleased. And if you are fortunate to have a spiritual master who is so elevated, if he is pleased, then Krishna becomes pleased. So, intention is transcendental position, always living in a transcendental position. And the approach is to, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Next, the question is, who can get the mercy of the Lord? How can one get mercy of the spiritual master and the Lord? There's another nice conversation with Srila Prabhupada. This was in 1976 in New York. One interviewer had come. I'll just take 2-3 minutes more. This Prabhupada's servant is telling, in the evening, Srila Prabhupada goes to bed at 10 o'clock and gets up at 11:30 to begin translating his books. So the interviewer is surprised. Interviewer, you just sleep a couple of hours then? So you see, Prabhupada's secretary, servant telling, Prabhupada goes to bed at 10 o'clock and gets up at 11:30 to begin translating. This is in 1976. Prabhupada is 80 years old, traveling around the world. He sleeps at 10 o'clock, gets up at 11:30. So the interviewer is surprised. You just sleep a couple of hours then? Prabhupada, no, 1.5 hours. The interviewer, that's it? So Prabhupada says, then he says, yes, of course, in daytime I take rest 2 hours. So in this way, altogether about 3 to 4 hours. So Prabhupada used to sleep for 3 to 4 hours a day, and he would keep himself 20 hours, 21 hours awake and working. Our philosophy, then Prabhupada switches to the interviewer. He's switching to another philosophical point. But this is what we should read Prabhupada's words, we should read Prabhupada's books very carefully. Because you will never know, suddenly you will find great gems will be there. Even in a small, seemingly casual conversation with an interviewer, Prabhupada brings out some very, very profound philosophical truths. Our philosophy is not that you sit idly and God will send everything. No, not like that. We know God will send everything. God only has to send. We know that. We know God will send everything. Still, we work. We know God will send everything. Still, we work. Without God's sanction, nothing can come. But we must be qualified to receive the favor of God. That is our philosophy. So, it is by the mercy of Guru and Krishna that we will come to a transcendental position. But we must be qualified to receive the favor of God. To get that mercy of the Lord, we must be qualified. So, transcendental position, living always in the transcendental position, and that happens by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. But to get the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we must have the qualification. But we must be qualified to receive the favor of God. That is our philosophy. Next, what is the qualification to receive the mercy of God? To receive the mercy of the spiritual master. In another place in the purport, this is the last point, Prabhupada concludes a purport, a very important verse in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. I won't go to that because it will take too much time. And I always see that the first sentence of Prabhupada's purport and the last sentence of, you should pay little attention to that. Because Prabhupada, how he is beginning and how he is concluding, these are all very important, because very carefully Prabhupada is composing his purports. Very nice. So the last sentence of the purport. It is stated, therefore, that only when all contamination is rooted out and the devotee is completely detached from material attractions, can he receive this mercy of the Lord. This verse is also about how one can understand Krishna. One can understand Krishna by the mercy of Krishna. But how can one get the mercy of Krishna? Prabhupada is writing, I'll read out. It is stated, therefore, that only when all contamination is rooted out and the devotee is completely detached from material attractions, can he receive this mercy of the Lord. So that is the qualification to receive the mercy of the Lord. We have to work for our purification and for detachment. And if we work towards our purification and detachment from the material world, then we have the qualification. Lord will see and he will give the blessing. And when he gives that blessing of the Lord, by the blessing of the Lord, by the mercy of the Lord and the spiritual master, Lord's mercy, spiritual master's mercy, yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadaha, yasya prasadat nagatihi kutopi nagatihi. There's no hope, yasya aprasadat, if the spiritual master is displeased. So spiritual master and Krishna, we can see it as one, their mercy. And by their mercy, we can transcend. And that is the philosophy of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So if we want to always remain in a transcendental position, that can happen by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And to get that mercy of Guru and Krishna, one should become purified and one should become detached from material things. That is the qualification. And if we come to the transcendental situation, Brahmani stitaha, and even Nikhileshvapyavistha avasthasu, in any condition of material existence, one can be in a transcendental position. And then Brahma's argument is, what does it matter whether you're in the forest or in the kingdom? You're Indriya, you have controlled your senses, you're Atmarati, you're Buddha, you're enlightened. So come and take up the kingdom. That's the argument Lord Brahma is building. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss any updates.